Well, welcome to 7 for 12, YouTube's newest cricket show featuring the main man, Steve Harmison. Thanks so much for joining us today. We will be with you following every day's play of England's international summer, and I doubt we'll have more action to speak about on any other day than we do today. Please don't forget, like, subscribe, review, leave a comment, and Harmy will get back to you in the next show. But we have got to get cracking. That was never supposed to be a 16 wicket day, but that's how it panned out at Edgbaston on day 3 of the second test between England and New Zealand. Well, where do you begin? I tell you where you begin. You begin at the beginning. And it was still a very, very tight encounter in the second test match. Remember, Joe Root's never lost a test series in England. Well, that, unfortunately, is going to come to an end at some point on day 4 at Edgbaston. And the reason for that is brilliant bowling and some absolutely soporific batting at times. England still had their fingernails in this game at lunch when New Zealand were 326 for 5, a lead of just 23. And when they ripped through the Kiwis, you thought they were back in the match. A first innings lead of 85 for New Zealand when it looked like they were going to get a whole lot more. Unfortunately, before the tea break, 2 quick wickets, and after the tea break, just a little bit of a horror show. Steve Harmison, look, what do we focus on? Do we focus on awful batting or do we focus on brilliant bowling?
I think you have to give credit to New Zealand, the way they bowled. This was a flat pitch. Actually, forget that. You give credit to the ball. Both teams in this game have bowled beautifully. Absolutely magnificent. And the difference between the two sides is the top 6 of New Zealand have had a masterclass in how to play against, the high-class test match bowling. Chris Silverwood said after the game, this was a lesson from New Zealand about being number 1 in the world. Nonsense, Chris Silverwood. I'm sorry, Spoons. I love you to bits, but that's nonsense. The mistakes your batsmen are making, I'm teaching under 13s the same. Watch the ball. Play within your parameters. Keep your hands tight. Play as late as you possibly can. Try and soak up pressure. England have done nothing like that. Nothing like that. Trying to reinvent the wheel of batting. Absolute nonsense. This has been poor. Not just today. I'm not going to bombard them today and hammer them about just today. England's batting has been poor for the best part of 2 or 3 years now at the top of the order. Consistently 2 down for not very many. Stupid shots. Rory Burns has got runs under his belt. The shot he played second ball of the game. Wow, look, have a look at yourself. Have a look at yourself in the mirror and really try to evaluate what you've just tried to do and perform there. Same old. Sibley, same mistake. Mikey Holden saying it was a good ball. Yes, it was a good ball to Dom Sibley, but it's the same dismissal every time. It's just not good enough. Not good enough. Nowhere near. And what you find at this minute in time, we'll talk, and they will talk. I can guarantee they'll be murmuring. Broad and Anderson are playing. They're getting on. They're too old. They shouldn't be playing together. Absolute bollocks. Broad and Anderson have just bowled their nuts off there. Will on with Wood and Stone. That was a 450 pitch, a good 400, 450 pitch. Bowl well. I tell you what, batting, hold your head on shame.
Well, I tell you what, this channel is called Steve Harmison, Bowl Fast, Talk Straight, and you've just had a little glimpse of what this channel is all about. It's not just about panning players. It's not just about blowing with the wind, blowing smoke up people's backsides 1 minute and then slamming them the next. It's about consistency. It's about honest analysis. And you have to be honest after a day's play like we've just witnessed at Edgbaston. Look, plenty to get going, and we're going to do that right here on 7 for 12. Right, Harmy, the clock is ticking. 7 minutes 12 seconds. You've gone in on the long run at some of England's batting, and we're going to look at that as well within Harmy's tips. But let's just turn it around a second, because this is New Zealand side that is arguably the best New Zealand side that's ever landed on these soils. Jeremy Coney would probably disagree, as would most of that 1980s team. But let's just play a little bit of credit here. 6 changes. They didn't even have the bowler, Tim Southey, who took 6 for at Lords. But you, on and off air, have always spoken about the pack that you bowled with: Simon Jones, Freddie Flintoff, Matthew Hoggard, Steve Harmison and Ashley Giles. New Zealand have got something similar, haven't they?
They have. They've got a fantastic bowling unit. And what you do is you put pressure on the opposition batsman and you ask, between the two of you, whoever's bowling it, whatever time in the day, whether you're containing, whether you're attacking, whether you're just sort of trying to grind out to get the ball to either reverse swing in that 40 to 50 over period, or you're bowling towards the end of 70 to 80 to try and get to that second new ball. You bowl as a unit, you bowl as a pack. England did that as well. So we can put England in this as well. But that you're talking about New Zealand, and they were magnificent. They were fantastic. Yes, without Tim Southey. Trent Boult, and again, I can come off my long run on that one. Trent Boult is flowing the whole way, all the way around the world to play in this test match.
Can I just stop you there?
Playing this test match.
Can I just stop you there as well, Harmy? Because there was something that was very important said, possibly by David Lloyd, I'm not too sure, on the Sky commentary. And he said, look, there is such thing as player power. If these players want to play, they will do. Look how Stuart Broad reacted to being dropped last year. Now, in India, all these players are coming and going, and it was all about the team. And, oh, well, you know, we're going to have to rotate. Hang on a second. If Trent Boult wants to play, Trent Boult plays. And I just wonder whether if some of the England players had shown the same amount of balls, really, and said, no, that is my spot in the team and I'm not giving it up. Well, maybe we would have seen a couple more different faces in some of the teams that we've seen over the last few months playing for England.
Absolutely, and you know, you got me. I'm irate, and I don't want to pick on Chris Wokes. I really don't, and I'm just making Chris as a little bit of an example. But if I was Chris Wokes, I'd be going, do you know what? Why should I play? You've dropped me, you've played me, you've dropped me. I won Player of the Year less than 6 months ago. Yes, I was in with Mo and Ali in the taxi with COVID, but I have been messed around for 6 months. But again, you talk about player power. Trent Boult is flowing all the way around the world. New Zealand is 25 hours on a plane. John, you've done that many times because your family's come over there. You know what that journey's like. Guys stayed in quarantine, and we've got an all-rounder. We're desperate for an all-rounder to bat number 7 or number 8 and bowl for us. Bowling's not a problem. We could have done with his batting, could have done with his experience at the bottom. He lives 10 minutes from Warwickshire. So, and I'm not knocking Chris Wokes. I'm just talking about in general. There are players who have been hiding behind IPL, hiding behind the ECB, hiding behind coaches. Come on, guys, you got to front up now. You're playing for England. You're not playing for dog and duck. You're playing for England. You're playing for your career. Do you want to be IPL? Forget Test cricket, then see it. Go off and we'll work with something else. We understand. But England have got a pool of players, of 28 players, and we've got 10 players not playing, not wanting to play, having a bit of a rest, staying in the COVID stuff. And I understand the bubble. I had a great conversation with Ashley Giles last year, and I understand the bubble. But if Trent Boult can fly all the way around the world to play in a game, to try and play in the Test Championship final, then a Chris Wokes, a Sam Curran, a Johnny Bairstow, all these players could have made themselves available for the last round of county championship games and got themselves in a position to say, you know what? I can get my test spot here going. I can go to India. I can go to Australia against India. I can go to Australia. And what has happened? We are talking about players making the same mistakes, and we are throwing young players under the bus. James Bracey, I feel so sorry for that lad. I really do. Not that because he's not good enough, because he is good enough. This kid will play test matches for England. But is it the right time? He finds out 4 days before his test debut that he's going to have to keep wicket. Having only kept wicket 18 times in first-class cricket. It's not fair. That, for me, upsets me a little bit. People that, like what Bumble said, player power. Hand up. I'm playing for England. It was the biggest thing that, honestly, I fell out with Andrew Strauss, right? I called Andrew Strauss out in the middle of the dressing room and I was bang out of order when I got dropped in Barbados in 2008 because Andrew Strauss is the boss and he was the one I was going to answer. I'd apologize to Andrew, I apologize to the team. And even now, I still apologize to him every time I say it to him because I had so much respect for that guy. But he was the boss and he was the one I had to go to when I got dropped and wasn't playing. It hurt me so much. It meant so much to me. Does it mean the same? I hope so. I hope I'm wrong. But look, that performance there, I think there's a lot of question marks, a lot of questions of done this, done that, done the other. I think the ECB need to have a good look at themselves from a coaching, from a selection, from the whole policy of the way they're trying. I can hear people blaming county cricket. Every time we have a bet, blame county cricket. We don't win the Ashes, blame county cricket. Nonsense. Look in the mirror and have a look at yourself. Have a look at yourself, whether you're in the team or you're not in the team and you're supposed to be an international cricketer, international superstar. I'm sorry, it's wrong. It is wrong. England were poor.
England were very, very poor. Joe Root as well. You've got to feel sorry for him. That is, by my maths, the 8th test match in a row where essentially he hasn't had his best side.
John said that 8 months ago, 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I said, I feel, Joe Root is going to be thrown under not just a bus. There's a tank. Joe Root's been thrown under a tank. We've done all this to get Owen Morgan the best possible way to win 2019. We had to do the same for Joe. Hasn't happened in the winter. I felt his pain walking off. I felt his pain. This is one of the greatest cricketers we've ever produced. And we have got a team like what's happening at this minute, consistently making the same mistakes, and we're not prioritizing to give him the best chance to be the best team we possibly can in Test match cricket. And if we're going to keep preparing for one-day cricket, we've seen the ICC bring a list out. It was like a Christmas card list for the next 10 years of white ball competitions. If we're going to go down the white ball competition and prioritize that, you might as well just sack off Test match cricket, because no other Test match nation does that. All these guys that are playing for New Zealand are going to be playing white ball cricket in the World T20. Not too dissimilar, one or two different ones. Bolt's going to be playing. All the big guns from New Zealand who are top of the playing Test match. It's just they'll be playing the one days. We try and reinvent the wheel in this country sometimes. We think we're smarter than what we are. We think we deserve and we run the game of cricket and rule the game of cricket. I think these last 2 weeks, is a harsh reality of where we are and what we are prioritizing. The wrong thing. The 100. Nobody understands it. I'm moving off. I think I've gone beyond 7 minutes, 12 seconds. We are at this moment in time in red ball cricket in a sad case of affairs. We should have lost at Lords. We're going to get humiliated this week, and the bowlers are getting thrown in, and there's some young players going to get thrown under a bus. For me, we need to have a good hard look at ourselves from above as well as on the field.
Yeah, well put. And look, it is 7 for 12, and it is 7 minutes 12 seconds. But sometimes you just have to say, forget about that, because it was one of those days. And you're absolutely right, by the way. If it wasn't for that washout at Lords, England would be facing a 2-0 series defeat against New Zealand. And considering they've got 5 tests against India to come, who, by the way, play a lot of cricket as well, but somehow managed to put out their first team more often than not. And then, of course, Australia, who also play quite a lot of cricket. And they managed to put out their first team for the Test cricket more often than not as well. So something's very, very seriously wrong. And I promise you, the viewers, that we will not shy away from making some pretty big statements and looking at some pretty serious situations and bringing it to you here on 7 for 12. There were some, or rather one, lighthearted moment though. So let's just change tack very, very quickly with our laugh out loud moment of the day. So let's cast our mind back, okay? Because there was at one point of the day when it looked like New Zealand were going to throw away all of their endeavour. England's bowlers, I thought, were terrific again. Well, actually, apart from the first 45 minutes, hour of the day when Ross Taylor came out with a game plan, and also their fielding let them down again. How different would this game have been, by the way, if that Will Young catch had been taken, the Tom Blundell catch had been taken, and the Ross Taylor catch had been taken anyway? Look, Trent Boult came out. despite having an average of 15, he's seen as a proper old school Courtney Walsh type of number 11. He has got an international half century, by the way, in Test cricket. He played one shot, Harmy, which had me absolutely creasing. It wasn't just how bad the shot was. It was what he did afterwards. Essentially, he tried to pull. I'm just trying to think. Is he right-handed batsman? He's left-arm bowler. They tried to pull Stuart Broad, and he tried to pull it square of the wicket, and somehow the ball went straight past Stuart Broad, which was funny in itself. He then collided with Patel as the two were running across whilst he was looking at the ball. But what made it even more ridiculous was, for some reason, he was pointing towards the boundary. It was like he was pointing to the fielders where the ball was going. It was a bizarre moment, a light-hearted moment, and to be honest with you, after today, we kind of needed a bit of humour.
Yeah, a bit of humour. We had a bit in the crowd, which is a bit of humour, a bit of batting, which was a bit of humour from an England point of view. And look, when you put two tail enders together, and oh, what a picture that is! What a lovely Union Jack that is, by the way. But when you put two tail enders together, you're always going to have a little bit of fun. There's many times I've gone out to bat, and I always make the joke, I was there for a good time and a long time. I think there's one or two times where I've come off with about 20 or 30, feeling pleased with myself. And I feel as though, you know what, I've played every shot in the book. I've played a forward defensive, a good drive. I played a back foot punch, nice pull shot, square cut, and everything went to third man. Everything went to third man. For some reason, I just was just a bit late on it. I just wasn't very good. But it was a comical moment. This is what does happen, because more often than not, the majority or the high proportion of run-outs in Test match cricket are between 9, 10, 11, or Nasser Hussain. And you know, when you put bowlers together, they do tend to make strange decisions.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, we've had a little off. We're going to go back to the serious stuff now, because we've got to have a little look and see what can be done about England's batting technique. Okay, Harmy, so where do you start? Because it seemed to me when England were batting, the first two wickets were edges into the cordon, which meant the batsmen that came in were then worried about that and then got done LBW, which meant the next batsman came in were worried about getting done LBW, so then they got caught in the cordon, and it just went round and round and round. And I just watched New Zealand show exactly the kind of technique that you were talking about earlier, and that is playing within your parameters, covering the line, but crucially, not following the ball and just trying to keep cool when the ball was dominating, because it was a flat track. It was going to be coming back your way. Why couldn't England do the same thing?
Well, like I said, I've said in this sort of last 15 minutes, we're trying to reinvent the wheel. We're picking a bat up and we're going high. You know, the only person I've ever seen do that is Graham Gooch. You know, Graham Hick tried it, and you know he changed a little bit. But we're standing this bat high. We're in moving trigger movements. We're on the move. Dom Sibley's moving around. I couldn't look. There was a lot of, you know, mentioned Nasser Hussain's running, but there was a lot of people would sort of make a joke. Oh, it must be a nightmare batting after Nasser, because he's like a curtain reel that moved it, and he looked as though it was doing a hell of a lot more than it is. But England's top two. If you're batting at number 3, or you're Joe Root batting at number 4, you'll think it's doing all sorts, because the amount of movement that Sibley and Burns have, and Crawley's a little bit more stiller, but he still plays outside his eye line. You must go out there thinking, you know what, it must be doing all sorts, when it's not doing a great deal at all. And you know, the simple way of what you're taught when you're a kid, you know, stand still, pick your bat up, and just try and play it as straight as you possibly can. Hit the ball back down the ground. Graham Gooch, one of the best players that's ever, and a fantastic coach, batting coach. You know, he'd say the ball that goes back past the stumps, past the umpire, is the best shot in the book, because that you're hitting the bowler's best ball straight back past him where there's no fielders. You're presenting the full face of the bat with your head in a strong and a stable position and nice, easy balance. I don't see that with anybody else other than Joe Root. I do not see that. Even Joe at times has changed his little trigger movement to try and help and compensate to get his balance right. But at this minute in time, we seem to be all over the shop. We're getting right outside off stump. Ollie Pope batting on off stump, or in and around off stump, falling over. He's a walking LBW. And that, for me, as a bowler, gives you so much encouragement. You get 12 studs. You get 12 Matthew Hayden, a fantastic opening batsman for Australia. When Hayden was in his prime, you run up the ball after Hayden. You seen them 12 studs come at you, and that Gray Nichols bat was nearly as big as him. And Matthew Hayden, 6'5" and built like a brick shithouse. And when you seen them 12 studs and that bat come towards you in defence, you're thinking, as a bowler, you're thinking, oh, where am I going to bowl now? Where am I going to bowl now? And at this minute in time, it just encourages the bowler. Every ball that the opposition seem to bowl at England's top order, it just gives them an extra over, because if you're deflating the opening bowlers and you have to bring the second change bowlers on and you start deflating them, then all of a sudden you earn the right, like I said yesterday, the score runs and cash in. At this minute in time, the bowlers must be thinking, you know what, I can bowl 10 overs. Yeah, I feel fresh as anything because I'm making something happen. And I think it's the England batsmen that are making something happen and not the opposition bowlers as much.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, on tomorrow's 7 for 12, we will pick out 11 for that first test match against India at the start of August. There's a couple of county championship games at the start of July, so there is a little bit of red ball cricket. We are going to see the likes of Joss Buttler and Ben Stokes, Chris Wokes, Sam Curran and all of those guys back playing cricket again at some point. And we're going to dissect that batting order. What can be done? Because as things stand, India are on the verge of winning here in England, you'd have to say, in terms of form for the first time in a long time. Harmy, get back to the end of the long run up. Go and have an ice bath. Take your shoes off. Have a breather. You'll be back tomorrow. Absolutely brilliant stuff today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, leave a review. If you've got any questions, then Harmy will answer them. I promise you. But you have been watching 7 for 12.